Well, I might as well bring this up before someone else does in the comments section. If you look behind the fireplace in Princess Peach's bedroom, you'll find something called Peach's ? And in Japan it's referred to as Peach's XXX. My theory? It's actually the Vibe Scepter from Super Princess Peach. The ending of that game already made it sound pretty kinky, so everything just lines up perfectly. Well, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So, let's go on with the show! That was really dumb. No, I'm keeping that in. For the longest time, I haven't been very well versed in the field of Mario role-playing games, unless they have the word paper in the title. And since I covered the first 3 Paper Mario games for my Summer of Mario series last year, a lot of you guys have been wanting me to look at Mario's other role-playing adventures, particularly the Mario and Luigi series. Don't worry, your time will come. But before we get to that, we need to talk about the one that pretty much started it all. Super Mario RPG. Now I'm having flashbacks to when I did my video on the first Paper Mario, reviewing a game I dabbled with for a number of years but never fully completed until now. Yeah, the same goes for this one. Mario starring in his own role-playing game is something we're used to seeing by now, but back when this game first came out, the idea seemed a little far-fetched. Obviously, we're singing a different tune these days. La-di-da. And Super Mario RPG is regarded as a classic, a staple of the SNES. But do you know what we have to thank for this masterfully crafted piece of electronic role-playing entertainment? Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Yeah, ironically, what many consider to be one of the worst RPGs of all time is partially responsible for what many consider to be one of the best RPGs of all time. Mystic Quest was Squaresoft's attempt at making RPGs popular in the West. They were already a hit with critics, they just didn't sell as well as they did in Japan. Needless to say, their plan didn't work. Not because the game was bad, but mostly for how dumbed down and overly hand-holdy it felt. Hand-holdy is officially a word now. If the team wanted role-playing games to reach a wider audience, it was clear that they needed someone to help them pull it off. And in the 90s, Nintendo was pretty much the king of crafting high-quality games that everyone could enjoy. It certainly helped that their mascot was the biggest and most recognizable face in the industry. So the two companies partnered up to bring the world of Mario to the role-playing genre. And the result was Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars.
When this game arrived on store shelves in 1996, the Nintendo 64 was just a few months away. So not only did this serve as Mario's first RPG, but it also ended up being his swan song for the Super Nintendo. I'm not sure why I felt the need to bring that up, so I think it's time to stop showing off my Japanese copy of the game and actually start playing it. Not the Japanese copy, the American version, the one I can actually read. Because I'm an uncultured swine. Oink, oink.
Well, what do you know? Bowser kidnapped Princess Peach and we have to go save her. That didn't take very long, did it? But this game is quick to show us it's not like other girls. After rescuing Peach, a giant sword falls out of the sky and plants itself straight through Bowser's castle, proclaiming that the Smithy Gang will soon take over the world. But when these foes invaded the Mushroom Kingdom, the Star Road was broken into 7 pieces, the Star Road not being a way to get to the final level of Super Mario World in under 15 minutes, but instead a place where people's wishes are granted. Funny how stars and granting wishes are such a recurring theme in these games. Now Mario has to team up with friends and foes alike to collect the star pieces, repair the Star Road, and defeat the gang of Smithies once and for all. The plot is much more involved than your standard Mario romp, but as you can tell from how brief that summary was, it's incredibly simple. This is the first role-playing game Mario's ever had, so I wasn't expecting a big, epic story this early in his career. But Super Mario RPG's biggest strength in terms of writing is in characterization and humor. Mainstays of the franchise like Bowser and Peach have much more personality to them, and the tone is very tongue-in-cheek, playing off of typical RPG cliches, but allowing the game to take itself seriously enough to where you can feel the danger looming over everybody. Though if there's one thing later games will excel at much further than this one, it's making the side characters just as memorable and interesting as the main characters. I chuckled quite a bit whenever Booster was on screen. He's got the attitude of a bumbling schmuck and the brain of a reckless child. Kinda like me. But when reflecting on the time I spent playing through the game, I find that I have more memories of the moments featuring those characters rather than the characters themselves. That's not necessarily a problem since Super Mario RPG has tons of great moments. Jumping on tadpoles to make a song, witnessing Toads on what I can only describe as the highest of sugar highs, going through a curtain and coming out as an 8-bit sprite, finding some guy's wallet and then selling it at an item shop. I especially love when Mario has to tell a story and actually morphs into different characters to play it out. It's very charming, but not so much when I try to do it.
So, what did he say?
Well, I think it was something like,
Y'all got any cheese?
I don't know, I thought it was funny.
But these individual moments wouldn't hold much weight without solid gameplay to support them. Now, how does Super Mario RPG take the classic side-scrolling, Goomba-stomping action Mario was most known for at the time, and make a 20-plus hour-long role-playing game out of it? Well, just do the Final Fantasy thing, but make it a little more Mario-ish. You have a number of worlds to travel through, but you get to each world by selecting them on a world map. The areas are expansive and provide different means of exploration, but you can also jump around and hit blocks to get power-ups. You have a bunch of bad guys to engage in turn-based battles with, but there are also minigames sprinkled throughout the adventure to add a bit of variety. Several elements of both the Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi series originate from this game. Sleeping at inns to restore your health. Oh, hey Link. Using flower points to perform special attacks. Equipping yourself with stronger weapons and gear. Vibing to the music and not realizing you're doing it until you start feeling pains in the back of your neck from vibing too hard. And recruiting other characters to join your team. Early in the game, you cross paths with Mallow, who joins your party after you help him get a special coin back from this purple-looking dude named Croco. Mallow is a cloud prince who was adopted by a race of frogs and therefore believes he's a frog. You know what? I can totally see the resemblance. Then after some kid shoots Mario in the head with a doll that would most certainly be a lawsuit waiting to happen if it existed in real life. Not that the toys we have are any safer. A star spirit sent down from the Star Haven possesses the doll and gives birth to everybody's favorite character, Geno. And I wasn't joking, this guy is so ridiculously popular. I'm assuming that's more for how he handles in battle, because personality-wise, he's literally a piece of wood. Apart from his introduction, I don't recall him having that many standout moments, at least any that stood out to me personally. Even in battle, I didn't really use him all that much. If I needed hard-hitting attacks, I just stick with Bowser. Well, speaking of which, the Koopa King himself joins your team, mainly just so he can get his castle back from Smithy.
Smithy!
And then we have Princess Peach, who joins our team partly as a way of thanking Mario for saving her from getting married to Booster. Why do forced marriages keep popping up in all this Mario-related media? Does Shigeru Miyamoto need to see a psychiatrist? But there we go, the gang's all here, and unlike Paper Mario, where you can use your partner's abilities to solve puzzles on the overworld, this is Final Fantasy through and through, so you'll really only be using their skills in battle. Alright, I think it's about time we actually took a look at the combat. If the old school Final Fantasy design philosophy wasn't apparent enough, Final Fanalosophy, the battle system makes it blatantly clear. It's turn-based, with different actions mapped to different buttons. A for basic attacks, B for defense, Y for special moves, and X for using items. Mario's your standard fighter with an arsenal of jump, hammer, and fire-related attacks. Mallow, while not the strongest in terms of physical attacks, makes up for it with his thunder-based special moves. Geno majors in offensive attacks and is arguably the most powerful of the bunch, but again, I barely used him unless it was pretty much required. Bowser doesn't have much in the way of special moves, but has incredibly strong basic attacks. And Peach is essentially the mage, being able to cast spells to heal herself and her teammates. Items? Well, if you're familiar with other Mario role-playing games, you'll know what to expect here. Mushrooms to increase your health, honey syrups to give you extra flower points, the extra life power-up that lets you resurrect fallen party members, but the Fab 5 can also be equipped with items and accessories to give them extra defense or protect them from status conditions like sleep or poison, and they each have their own set of weapons that you can swap out in between battles. My favorites are the Chain Chomp that Bowser can swing around and throw at enemies, and any kind of stick that Mallow can whack opponents with.
I had to beat an old lady with a stick.
The combat is very simple to pick up and figure out, but not too simple to where it comes off as bland. It's not just a matter of hitting bad guys enough times. Your victory depends on skill and precision. However, it's also kind of a double-edged sword in a way. It can be fun and engaging, but to a certain extent, every battle kind of plays out the same way.
Super Mario RPG's battle system, while serviceable, can also be repetitive. Enemies and locations may vary, and you might even get this lucky jingle to play every now and then, although I'm not sure how exactly it's supposed to benefit me. But no matter who you're facing or what you're facing, you're pretty much doing the same thing every single time. Land some hits here, take some damage there, and get some experience points afterwards. Although, at least this game actually has experience points. I mean, what would role-playing games be without them? But it does get a little stale after a while. Maybe if collecting the star pieces gave you extra special attacks like the Star Spirits or the Crystal Stars, I could at least have something to look forward to as I get farther along with the game. Then again, maybe it wouldn't matter so much since a lot of these guys can be taken down with little challenge once you have the right weapons and armor equipped. Depending on the circumstances, you could very easily break battles in half. Well, not completely in half, they'll still have some restrictions. Despite you having up to 5 characters in your party, you can only bring 3 into battle, Mario and 2 others. You can switch up your roster at any point on the overworld, though the Paper Mario fan in me really wishes I could switch them out during battles, especially when some of my teammates are killed and I can't easily use a pick-me-up to bring them back. I also wish Mario could be swapped out, so as to give me a little more freedom to put a more versatile team together, particularly for when I have to go up against the bosses. These are when battles start getting a little more interesting. Not only do these bosses have some of the coolest character designs in the entire game, but they also provide more of a visual spectacle than what normal fights would have to offer. Oh, actually, while we're on the topic of visuals, I don't really know what to make of these graphics. The art style goes for an isometric pre-rendered look, obviously inspired by Donkey Kong Country, but if you ask me, compared to DKC, this game's aged about as well as store-brand cheese that you haven't taken out of the fridge in over a month because you forgot it was there. It doesn't look bad at all, the colors are vibrant, and the character sprites are decently rendered. It just reeks of that awkward early 90s CG look, whereas the Donkey Kong Country games hold up so much better with smoother animations and cleaner sprite quality. One area that Super Mario RPG truly shines in is the audio, more specifically the music, masterfully composed by Yoko Shimomura, who would later go on to write soundtracks for the Kingdom Hearts series and even the Mario and Luigi games. Her composition work is absolutely brilliant. There's a fine, fine line between being a Mario game and a traditional Japanese role-playing game. It's able to capture the bounciness and the spirit of Mario while still sounding like a typical RPG soundtrack. Remixes of classic Mario tunes are abundant, and the new songs, while not immediately memorable, are some of the finest musical pieces ever written for a Mario game. But back to those boss fights. Now, I must have really underestimated this game because going into Super Mario RPG mostly blind, I thought it was going to be a breeze, but approaching it with that mentality was the biggest mistake of my life. Second biggest mistake of my life. Third biggest mistake. Shigeru Miyamoto. Okay, I'm a better person now, leave me alone! Suffice to say, I did what Han Solo told me not to do. I got cocky and went into several boss fights completely unprepared. They're not really all that difficult, but because idiot me thought they'd be super easy, I struggled a few times. And which one did I struggle with the most? Not Culex, because I didn't actually get to him during my playthrough, but those friggin' Axum Rangers. I hated this fight. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how many timed hits I landed, no matter how many tips and walkthroughs I looked up on the internet to try and find the best strategies to beat these guys, for whatever reason, I just couldn't. I wasn't sure if there were any specific items or accessories I needed to equip, but after restarting over and over again, they would just keep kicking me to the curb.
I couldn't let these Power Ranger knockoffs stop me now, but I also didn't feel like fighting them again, because I was worried that doing so would have me sent back to the Frustrated Gamer Rehabilitation Center. So here's what I did. Up to this point, I'd been recording the game using my SNES Classic, but in order to see what the rest of it was like, I switched to an emulator and downloaded a save file that had the Axum Rangers already beaten. And outside of maybe the Countdown boss, I didn't really feel like I'd be missing much else if I kept on playing. But like with my review of Super Princess Peach, I think I've gotten far enough in the game to come to a full conclusion. Plus, I was falling behind schedule, so I'm lucky to have even gotten as far as I did. So, now that I finally got to experience Super Mario RPG almost in its entirety, how does it rank for me? Well, I don't think I'd go so far as to call it one of the best role-playing games ever made, or maybe even one of the best Mario games ever made, but I still thought it was really good.
Super Mario RPG successfully manages to combine the tried and true Mario formula with the more complex nature of Final Fantasy. And though it's a little rough around the edges, it's able to translate Mario to this new gameplay style without sacrificing any of Mario's core fundamentals. It's a bit on the basic side, but in that respect, if you're someone who's not really much of an RPG aficionado, I think this game makes for a perfectly good introduction. It's very approachable, it shouldn't take you too long to beat, and as nail-bitingly frustrating as certain boss fights can be, the difficulty is fair and does increase gradually so that it doesn't get too hard at random points in the game. If you'd like to see someone else talk about this game, I'll link you to my friend Retro Mini-Me's review of it, which I also happen to pop up in. But for me, well, there are certainly other Mario role-playing games I would put over this one, but as Mario's first attempt at making an RPG, for the most part, I think it succeeds, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for it.
Well, we're just about near the end of this year's Summer of Mario. And before anyone asks, no, the Mario & Luigi series will not be the focus of the next video. I was hoping to at least get the sun to come back into the room so that the lighting would look good. Where are you going? And I was hoping to at least get to Superstar Saga, Partners in Time and Bowser's Inside Story at some point this year, but time just wasn't on my side. Neither is Mother Nature, apparently. Seriously, where is my sunlight? So, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to hold off on talking about those games for now. I promise I won't keep you guys waiting too much longer, but what can I possibly talk about for my last video?
Origami King.
There's gotta be something out there.
Origami King.
Something big.
Origami King.
Something recent.
Origami King.
Something I could do some big, epic, dramatic build-up to.
Origami King!
Alright, I guess it was pretty obvious, wasn't it? But yeah, Origami King is next time, so why do I even bother trying to surprise you guys anymore?
Knock knock, who's there? It's me, Haldo! Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, a very special thank you to the patron whose name is scrolling across the screen, as well as my superstar supporters for this month, Henry Newman, Tyler Paul, Rachel Rodriguez, and Jake Winans. If you'd like to support me as well, then please consider pledging to my Patreon page, or if you're watching this on YouTube, then become a sponsor by clicking the join button. Doing either of these gives you access to exclusive features like being able to watch videos before they come out, getting your name listed in the special thanks section, and being able to watch some exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Supporting me on Patreon or sponsoring me on YouTube are both things that I won't force you to do if you don't want to. It's all totally optional, but it would really mean a lot to me if you would give either of these a look. My chair squeaked, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep going. I don't really have much else to talk about here, except, I guess look forward to the Origami King video. I already have all of my footage recorded by the time I get to recording this bit of voiceover here. It's a pretty big game, so I'm expecting it to be a pretty big video. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out just yet. I haven't started scripting it, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Links to my social media and Discord server, as always, are in the description, and if you want to stay updated on my future uploads, if you're new here, then be sure to ring the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube, or stay subscribed, or follow me, whatever the terminology is, if you're watching me on Vlare. Thanks again for watching, and with that said, this is Marc, bidding you all a smashing farewell. Stay safe, wash your hands, and I hope you have an excellent day.